What's up?
Hey there, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this because I know you said you were free on Friday, but you said that like 4 days ago, and I just messaged you this morning, so I appreciate it very much.
No problem. I thank you for the opportunity.
Definitely, definitely. So I've been wanting to interview you for, a little bit of, quite some time. And your page is like really, really good. You put out just amazing content and you've got a great physique to boot. So how did you get started with all this? It's like the typical canned question, but I have to ask. Everybody's got a unique story for how they discovered the gym and physique-based sports. So what's your story?
So I was always very into any type of fitness or doing sports, throughout high school. But probably about 10 years ago, I really wanted to challenge myself with something very difficult. And I felt like I was always starting stuff, and if it got hard, I would quit. So I really wanted to test my own mettle with this. And I decided that I was going to try a bodybuilding competition. And I started out in bikini. So I hired myself a coach. I actually hired Vicki Nixon as my coach because she lived in my area. And we started doing bikini shows together. And the very first show that I ever did, I saw the figure competitors backstage and I was like, that's the physique I want. But I had a lot of work to do. So after the first season pretty much of, doing a bodybuilding show in bikini, I took 3 years off and basically went to work to put some muscle on so that I could then return to the stage in figure.
Gotcha. Because I was wondering, like, when I brought you on, she was also waiting to come on, and I was like, wow, this is so random. There's like an IFBB pro that I've heard of also that wants to join. I was like, I'll interview next time, but like that's why. So she's your coach, and that's awesome. And so yeah, there's a big jump. A lot of people, I think, at the local level, like the real local level, you might see a bikini competitor try her hat at figure, but in reality, there's just a pretty marked division between the two. And they're both awesome in their own right. They're both great, but like a bikini competitor really has to do some serious building to get into figure, and as well as condition as well. They're so different. How long did you last in bikini?
I basically did one show in the OCB, then I did one show in the NPC, which was a national qualifier. Mm-hmm. And for that was the first time like really ever competing, and I came in seventh out of, I don't remember how many girls, but there was a good amount of girls. And that was it. After that, I said, next time I come back to the stage is going to be in figure, because I was really impressed, because I've never been, I guess, so close to people that were that fit and had that much muscle. I mean, you go to the gym, but you don't see people like that walking around all the time. So my like glued to them, and I'm like, I want that physique. I'm going to go make that physique.
No, for sure. And for those of you that don't know, the OCB is probably one of the strictest natural federations out there. I mean, it is like really, really strict. I mean, they're really strict. But what do you, Nikki, love about figure? Like, what is it that, because I love figure, and I was just recently, I was down at Blackstone Labs, and the great Jen Strobo, figure superstar, actually works there. But she overheard me say to PJ, like, figure is probably like my favorite division. I love figure. Now, figure has changed a lot over the years, but it remains, just an amazing division. What do you love about figure?
So before I say that, a shout out to Jennifer Strobo, because she's my posing coach. So I want to say hi to her.
Definitely.
But why I love figure is because it takes such a level of dedication to get that type of physique. You really have to learn to sculpt, not just the whole body, but you have to really pay attention to those lagging body parts. And sometimes it takes a lot to bring them up to get you into symmetry. I love that you have to be in complete symmetry. I like the posing. And I just love the look of the physique in general. It's strong, it's sexy, it's not too much muscle, like, going up into the higher levels of physique or bodybuilding, but I just love that shape, and I love the density of the muscle.
Yeah, there's just something so special about it to me, because I do like women's physique and I do like women's bodybuilding, but those are like, that's like, and I mean this with all due respect, it's kind of like more extreme. And then bikini is just also more extreme in the sense that it's just a little too soft for me, but figure is just perfect. And I think you really said it perfectly, because like it's just enough muscle, it's just enough condition. It really is. And you have to be careful, because like with your physique, I think you could probably jump up a division if you really wanted to. I mean, I think it'd be easier for you to jump up to women's physique than it would be to bikini. Bikini, you'd have to literally destroy muscle, which nobody wants to do. But I think figure is just perfect.
Or the part that I really have to bring up. So I think it's harder for me to gain in the lower half for whatever reason.
Okay.
So, you know, I like the posing part of physique, but I don't know if, you know, it's going to take me a couple more years of work to be competitive on that stage. So I'm just realistic about it. And
Right.
a lot of figure, and even in figure I can still put more on my legs. So
No, for sure. And the thing is, you're nationally qualified, which I think is awesome. And just to, put that into context, nowadays anybody can be nationally qualified because they've made the rules as to where, I believe, if you're, is it top 5 or top 3, I believe it's still an achievement, but it isn't like it used to be. Like, you've been in this for 10 years. You said, even 5 years ago, being nationally qualified was a lot bigger deal then than it is now. It's still a big deal. But what I'm saying is that your physique can hang at the national level. And that, I think, is very important because, it's one thing to compete in your hometown, maybe do a regional show, but once you hit that national scene, all bets are off.
oh, that's a whole different animal for sure. You go to a local show that gets you nationally qualified to go, and then the physique levels up. It's not just what you won with at the local show. You kind of have to take a whole nother improvement season, maybe sometimes more than step on the national stage. And it's the same thing there. Once you get that pro card, you go to the next stage, and once again, you have a leveling up to do before you get to that pro stage. So it's just a continual evolution. It's a labor of love.
Definitely, definitely. So talk to us about Physiques by Nikki a little bit, because I mean, in addition to being a competitor, you're also a coach, and you've got this company, and so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically I started this like right before COVID, and COVID put a little bit of a damper on it, but we're getting back on track here, and I help people if they want to compete, or if people just want to come to me and lose some weight. Whatever their fitness goal is, I'm happy to work with them. I work with men, I work with women, I work with young people. I have my prize client, he's 74 years old, and he looks like 50. He just did a bodybuilding show, and he's going to be taking on a powerlifting challenge of deadlifting and bench press at his 75th birthday. So, it's just awesome to give back. And when you love doing something and you're able to bring that to somebody else, and you see them actually grow and mature, and sometimes this light bulb goes off and they just become something they didn't even think they could become. And that's the most gratifying feeling for me in the world, is just living vicariously through them. I know how it's transformed me. So if I could just give them a little bit of that and they can take it and run with it, that's better than getting paid, actually.
No, I mean, for sure. And I'm sure it's still work in the sense that you still get tired and you still have to put great effort forth, but it's something that you love to do. And I feel like that's rewarding. I feel like that's when work really means more than just a paycheck, obviously, and like you said, you have clients that, really run the gamut, because, to each their own, but there's some coaches that will only train women, or will only train men, or only train competitors. But to just have your doors open to all, I think is great, and like the gentleman you were talking about that's 75, I mean, who knows if that's something he wanted to do his whole life, but he just never, maybe he didn't have the confidence, or maybe he didn't have the opportunity to do it. But for whatever it is, he's doing it now, and that's what matters, and he's doing great. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really fun. And just like I posted on my Instagram, follow your bliss. I think if you do find your passion in whatever it is, it's your job to follow it, because that's where the joy remains. It's in that whole entire process. So
Right.
I just really enjoy helping people any way that I can.
Definitely. Like Kim Fidasine says, watering your flower. Definitely. I mean, that's what it's all about. And the fact that, you're nationally qualified and you've got the physique that you have, and you mentioned Jen Strobo, and you have a posing coach. I mean, the fact that you have a posing coach, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that you want a pro card. I mean, this is what you're after, right?
Yes, definitely. This year looks a little bit different, because just like I did with bikini, where I took that step back to level up. When I went to nationals last year, I wasn't really happy with my placement. So instead of just doing a short improvement season, I'm going to take it for the entire year to see what we can do to level up to go back. And this season, actually, I started off an improvement season with Matt Jansen, and I'm going to use him for prep when it comes time to it as well.
Definitely, that's a big name, but more so than a big name, that's someone that knows what he's talking about. You know, because there's coaches that, you know, have developed, you know, pretty impressive resumes, but, you know, no, obviously not going to name names, but are somewhat living in the past. That's a coach that has developed a big name that knows what he's actually talking about, which I think is great. And I think, you know, kudos to you for taking the year, because I think the temptation is to, like you said, you know, do a short prep and just, you know, keep doing it. And some people will do it till they literally burn out, because they just cannot fathom sitting on the sidelines, even if it is to improve, even if it is to reassess. So kudos to you on doing that. I think that's smart, really smart.
One of the things that I'm learning through working with Matt is the fact that, you know, he is so big about rest and recovery. And I think a lot of competitors forget about that. You know, they're going, especially when you're prepping and contest prep, there's not, you know, you're in a depleted state, you're still working out as hard as you can. But, you know, like I heard in your previous interview, sleep is so important, but fueling yourself appropriately before and after, really listening to your body. Are you paying attention to the cues of your digestion? Are you paying attention to, you know, every little detail? It's not just about eating protein and lifting weights. You know, if you want to have a national level or pro level physique, every little thing has to be taken into consideration.
No, definitely. And just to work one of my sponsors in, just because it's a perfect spot, Titan Medical, they talk about, you know, the GI tract, they talk about the nervous system, I mean, there's just so many things. And like, I feel that like so many people in the industry, physique-based sports, they look phenomenal outwardly, but internally, like their GI tract might be all messed up, their hormones might be all, so there's so much going on there. So the fuel that you talk about is so important. The sleep and the fuel, the hydration, I mean, it all comes together, but like, you're right, it is so much more, you know, than simply like moving weights around. And yeah, there's just so much more to it. But I honestly don't think, I mean, this sounds like pretty like common sense, right, Nikki? But like, I think a lot of people in the industry do not realize this until it's too late, you know?
No, I don't think they do. And, you know, just over the years, I mean, you should be learning about your body, and your coach should be helping to teach you and explain to you why things are happening. And, you know, like the previous interviewee that you had on here, you have to have a really good relationship with your coach so that you can navigate through all of that stuff. You know, you can't be afraid to tell them that, you know, your digestion is off or whatever. I mean, they could maybe tweak one little thing and it's right back down where it needs to be, and you're absorbing your nutrients correctly, and you're recovering correctly, and you're ready to hit it again, instead of going 3, 4, 5 days of maybe in not the right state. And think about how much that can cost you in a prep, you know, if you're getting ready for a show.
No, and that's super insightful too, because, you know, I find it refreshing. I'm on the media side. I don't compete, obviously. I have to lose like 100 pounds, but the thing is, I find it refreshing that, you know, here, you know, Giselle, the previous interview, she's basically not even done a show, but she already has these insights. She's already found a great coach. She's already been through a coach that maybe didn't work out for her. But you bring up an excellent point that I've, you know, heard many, many times over the course of the last 10, 15 years, is fear. You know, there's a lot of competitors that are scared to tell their coach, hey, this is not working out. It's not that I'm not disciplined. It's not that I've cheated on the diet. It's just not working out. Could you tweak it? And yeah, you cannot be scared of your coach. You just can't. And some people are, and they, you know, they would rather do a plan that does not work than tell their coach, you know, the hard facts, you know.
Well, not only that, being a coach myself, you learn that everybody's an individual. So, you know, it's unique to themselves, and what might work for you might not work for the next person. So like, nothing can be cookie cutter. Everything has to be custom tailored fit to you, your goals. And, you know, if you want to succeed, you got to be honest with yourself, honest with your coach. And listen, you know, you're here to learn too. It isn't just about getting that pro card or whatever. It's about, it's everything, you know.
Definitely. You know, one thing I'd like to ask you also, I mean, I feel, and this is not to be sexist, but I feel that a lot of women, especially, it might be because of the relationship they're in, it might be because of work, but a lot of women that I've met along the way have said that they always wanted to compete. You know, it took them like 5 or 10 or 15 years to actually do it. And it wasn't because they lacked a work ethic, and it wasn't because they didn't want it bad enough. It was because of the people around them. You know, they just, you know, whether it was a husband that didn't believe in them, or it was, you know, friends that wanted them to go out and party. Like, what would you say? And I actually want to make a reel out of this, or maybe like a little story to put out, because I feel like you have I feel like you have a light inside of you. Like, what would you say to a woman like that maybe wants to compete at this point in time, but may not have the support at home or at work or amongst her friends to do it?
Well, the first thing I would say is that this is something that you have got to want to do for yourself. Okay. So you're not doing it to please anybody else. And a lot of times it is taken the wrong way because it is kind of an extreme sport and people don't understand it. I don't consider it being selfish to do this sport. There's, you know, I think that's one of the biggest things that women get told, that they're being selfish, maybe the time away from the husband or the kids, or, you know, they're prepping their food when they could be going to a restaurant. You know, I would say you can do it one time, right? What is 3 months of anybody's life prepping to do something that they really want to see if they are good at? And yes, you are going to get noise, but if you truly are doing it for the right reasons, people will start to realize the passion that you have for it, and they start coming around. And if they don't come around, then you have another conversation to have.
Well, that's the thing, you know, hopefully they come around. Sometimes people don't, but I think the vast majority of people do. And I think it's like, I think especially when it comes to friends, even more than significant other, but friends, it's almost like you have to prove yourself to them. You don't have to, but when they see it's serious, and when the coolest thing I think, Nikki, is when people come to see either their significant other or their buddy or coworker at a show. It's almost like it makes sense. Like everything makes sense. It's like they see it. They're like, oh, so this is, and you know, I wish if you know, if everybody, like, this is crazy, but I wish if like everybody in the mainstream got to see a bodybuilding show, even for like 10 minutes, bodybuilding would be up there with the 4 major sports, because I just don't think people understand it, you know, and you almost have to look for it to find it. It's not going to find you. It's never, I don't know if it's ever going to be that mainstream, but it certainly isn't now, you know?
Well, I think that it's just inspiring all the way around. And when people don't really understand why you're carrying a cooler or why you can't do something, right away they assume that you can't fit in with them anymore, or they don't fit in with you. I learned over the years to basically prep for a show, and nobody is none the wiser, to the point where like I can still navigate and do normal things and not be so like making them feel bad because they're not doing something that I'm doing, you know?
Right.
And you just learn over time how to navigate through those things. But I would say that if you guys have dreams, if a woman has a dream or a man has a dream to do this, you need to walk in the steps of your dream, because you're going to regret it later on if in fact you don't do it. You're always going to wonder, you know, maybe I could have did it, maybe I should have did it. But if
Sure.
believe, if something is placed upon your heart and you need to figure it out, because it's going to haunt you if you don't.
No, well, I mean, the beauty of physique-based sports is that age really is just a number. So, you know, even like your client at 75, I mean, 75, I know competitors that are way older than that. But the thing is, like, whenever you decide to do it, bodybuilding will always have a place for you, because it rewards discipline, you know, so it doesn't really matter what age you are. But like you said, yeah, if it's something you want to do, I mean, might as well do it now. You know what I mean? And what's 3 months? Like you said, 3 months, just try it out, you know, give it a shot, see how it goes. But you know, I just see people so happy.
You know, it's all about how you handle it too, because sometimes it could go the other way, where you do become so self-absorbed into it that you are failing to show up in other parts of your life. So it's all about balance. Everything is about balance. Your prep should be balanced. Your work should be balanced. Your home life should be balanced.
Sure.
If you can keep it all in check, I don't see why you can't do anything you want to do.
Absolutely. And Michelle, yeah, I mean, it really is, age doesn't matter. And there's something to be said about women, again, not to be sexist, but I think that, you know, building muscle is almost like the fountain of youth. I mean, I've seen at Masters Nationals, especially, I've seen women in their 50s and 60s that look literally 20 years younger. There's no Botox involved. There's no makeup. There's no weird lighting, no Photoshop. It's just, there's just something about muscle that just, you know, reverses the aging process, especially with women. I don't know what it is, but
Well,
it's pretty amazing.
the muscle mature, you know, the more years you have in of working and building and sculpting, the muscle starts looking prettier, I think, in the master that has more detail. And, you know, you can tell those women up there have been working out for years and years and years with the physiques that they do. And it is the fountain of youth. I mean, if you're, you know, working out, you're healthy, your mind is healthy, you got healthy goals, you're striving for them, you're eating good nutrition,
Right.
and drinking lots and lots of water, staying hydrated, and just having the goal. You know, I think I'm going to go back to my client who's 75. You know, I think that's the thing that makes him so young and keeps him striving, because he constantly has a goal hanging out there. And whether powerlifting or bodybuilding or cycling or whatever he comes up with, I think that's the key to living a youthful later part of your life is
Of course.
strive for. Because if you have nothing to strive for, then you're just sitting around doing nothing.
No, you're right. You're so right. And it's crazy because, like, you know, at 75, he could potentially look like a 50-year-old, which is crazy. And at Masters Nationals, there's a guy named Dave Prawl who comes to mind. He's a pro now, and he won like 4 pro cards. And what's crazy is that at Masters Nationals, you could have like a 65-year-old, and they can win their pro card at 65. But then you see him compete at the 60 and the 55 and the 40, and they'll just keep competing. You're like, why are you competing? They just like the competitiveness of it all, you know? And what's crazy is you could have a guy beating people that are 15, 20 years his junior, just like wiping the floor with them. So again, really age is nothing, and it really, placings aren't either, Nikki. Like, I don't think that placings really define who a person is, but like the competitiveness of it all really drives people. It really makes them want to push harder. And there's nothing wrong with having goals, like, at all. So,
and to be honest with you, there's something very special about contest prep. It's almost like a fasting in a way. Like, you really turn inward. You dig really, really deep. Throughout contest prep, you learn so many different things about yourself, your work ethic, your drive, your discipline. I think for me, I like the prep more than I actually like the stage, because I'm able to transform all areas of life, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual. Everything seems to come together during that time, and you truly come out of it something different, someone different. And when that happens, you won, because you've grown, you've changed, and you're right, the placing doesn't really matter. It matters that you step on that stage, you started, you finished, and who you became during that process is something that you'll carry on until you contest prep again and transform again. And it's just a beautiful evolution.
well, you know, it's, and also, like, when I was down at Blackstone a couple of weeks ago now, time flies, but I remember I told PJ, I said, you know, I really want to do a show. Now, I'm 6'4", and he wants me down at 250. I'm 314. I've already lost like 40 pounds. I love to eat. But the thing is, yeah, I've been writing articles, doing videos, covering contests for like, I don't know, like 12, 13, maybe 15 years, you know. And I want to do a show, not because I want to win, and I don't even know if I could. It doesn't matter to me. I could place dead last, but I want to prep for a show. Because all I know is through interviews, which is powerful, you know, but it's not the same as actually going through it. And I feel like what you're saying may happen for me. I feel like it may be a real sort of soul searching kind of thing, even within the whining of it, you know, within the whining, within, you know, the sleepless nights, within, you know, the crap face from no carbs, all of that, like in its totality, I do feel like is a very like a soulful kind of like growth, you know what I mean? And there's somebody that I've actually interviewed him before. His name is Mitch Aguiar. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's got massive supplements. He's out in Virginia, but he puts his people through fasts, and they'll do like 10 days at a time. And there's something about fasting, you grow spiritually. But I've never heard someone say that about contest prep, and I can totally see it. I mean, you're really, truly, you're manipulating your calories. You're having to train. Posing is crazy. People cramp up during posing all the time, but the goal is the stage. But really, how you place doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you can get through that, you know, emotionally as well as physically. It's huge.
You know, I've learned in life, in anything, you know, take this sport or any other, the only person you're competing against is yourself. Are you better than you were the last time that you did this? If it's the first time you're doing this, the fact that you completed 12 weeks of such a grueling thing, you already won, right? Absolutely. But I think you just have to understand that when you go through this, you have to really embrace the process as a whole. Whether, you know, it sucks at one point in time, or you're, like you said, not sleeping, or, you know, you're hungry. The idea is to look at it as one big whole journey, and whatever comes to you, you accept it and you learn to grow through it. And if you're hearing yourself complain about it, this is not the sport for you, because you're
right. you know, and it's unlike, what's up, Neil? And it's unlike, and Neil was saying hi to you too. There's really nothing like it. And and you can't really ask people for like moral support because they're not going to know what you're doing. So if you're like, oh my God, I would do anything for carbs, you're like, here, have some carbs. You're like, no, I can't have them. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, what are you doing? You're going to like ruin my prep. They're going to be like, what's a prep? So it's almost like you have to like suffer in silence almost, you know, but it's not really suffering. Like you said, if you really want it, you'll process that, but you'll grow. I think it's been, I want to try it. I want to try it.
I think you should try it. Nothing should stop you from trying. I think you'll learn so much about yourself. You have a new appreciation for yourself. You know, you say that I did something really, really, really hard. And I think anytime you're trying to manipulate your weight, your physique, these are easy things with our society. Everything is so convenient, you know,
Right.
And you're going to do a sport that's going to be anything less than convenient.
No, I'm sure. So let me be a little nosy, if I may. What would you say for you? I mean, you know, 10 years is a long time, but you know, people have competed longer. What is the hardest for you in a prep, if at all anything?
So the last prep I had, I embraced it so totally that I loved every single second of it. There was something very special about that prep. I love the preparation. I love the purpose behind it. So even down to my meal prep, I love waking up, fixing all my meals, having them all ready. I don't look at any of it as hard or difficult. I truly just love it. So
Oh, definitely.
I don't know, but I really do. I embrace every part of it.
Absolutely. But let me press just a little bit more. So last year, you didn't get the placing that you wanted.
Correct.
You didn't. Okay. So how did you process that? Because a lot of people, their pride, which is not a good thing. I know we hear about it a lot as being a good thing, but it a lot of times is not a good thing. How did you process that and come back? Because I feel like that's so important. Some people cannot process. If in other words, if things do not go exactly as they envision them, people will just not come back. So how did you process that and then say, I'm going to take a whole year, which is another monumental decision, which a lot of competitors cannot do. Like I said earlier, they're going to burn out before they do that. You know, like how did you do all that?
Okay, so the first thing is or for me, I go into the show with zero expectations. If I have zero expectations, I can't be disappointed, right? So when sometimes people talk you up and they're like, oh, you're going to get this, whatever, I shut all that noise out. And because you never know what's going to show up on any given day. So the only thing I could do is show up being the best version of myself from the time before. But coming off of that, I was getting mentally burnt out. So when I noticed that happening, I said, okay, well, I'm going to sit myself down here and really kind of go through in my head, like, do I want to jump into a prep? Because, you know, sometimes you'll make an emotional decision because you feel like, okay, well, I didn't get what I want. I got to get right back to it.
Right.
And you know what? I'm going to take this time. I'm going to take my 2 steps back. I'm going to reevaluate. I'm going to reassess. And I'm going to put the time, energy, and effort into, one, training a little bit differently than I have in the past. So that's why I ended up getting a different coach. Not for anything other than I wanted a different style. Sometimes your body responds differently to different people's techniques, and it's always great to learn. So that was the first thing, but also really giving myself the opportunity to soak that in, relax, recover, and gain the fire back that I need to get back on that stage and give 1000% of my effort to move forward. And I think a lot of times when people meet a defeat, they don't process it to the point of not having a feeling about it. And in my case, I have to like analyze it, cut it apart, pull it apart, whatever. When I have zero feeling, I'm ready to move on. And that's when I took a step to move on. But I had to allow myself to think through that.
That's great too. I mean, and I think it's great too because especially like with previous coaches or future coaches, it's like, you know, sometimes you just need a change, and it's nothing like the previous coach didn't do anything wrong. It's just you want to just try a different path. You want to try a different approach. I think that's great. And I think the fact that you'll switch it up even after being in the sport for a good amount of time, that in of itself as well shows a lot of growth as well, because it's like you know, when you stop learning, I feel like you're at a huge disadvantage, and there's so much yet to be learned. You know, no matter, even like Mr. Olympia or Miss Olympia can still learn something. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't take myself so seriously. And, I really do like hearing other people's approaches. Like I said, everybody is unique, right? So they do something that I've not really done, or maybe a style that I haven't really done. And if it advances my physique, well, that's great. If it doesn't, I still learn something else that I could use for another client.
Right.
So it's just a continual evolution of growing yourself. Get as much information as you possibly can in life in general. Like I'm even like reading books like crazy just to absorb more and more information.
That's
Because
awesome.
I mean, that's how you grow, that's how you evolve. And that's why I love bodybuilding, because you are literally evolving, transforming. We're not born to stay the same throughout our whole entire life. And the great thing about bodybuilding is that, yes, you see the outward, okay? Everybody sees the outward. Your physique changed. Okay, in 3 years, you went from bikini to figure. But I probably grown 30 years in wisdom in that 3 years, just from really turning inward and embracing the process.
Definitely. No, and one thing too, and thank you, Kim, for saying this is a great interview. I appreciate it. And also, yeah, and Michelle also, this is a problem in learning, and absolutely. But the thing is, whenever I do an interview, I always ask my guests to send me like 1 to 3 photos for the graphic. And my graphic designer, Nadeem, he's in the UK, he's awesome. And you sent me, I think, 4 or 5 or something like that. And I had a really, really hard time picking a picture, because I wanted to pick the one where you're like sitting on the rail and your leg is showing inside of your midsection showing. I mean, I picked the one that I picked because it was the highest res. But where I'm getting at with this is, you have a beautiful physique. You have a beautiful face and a beautiful physique.
Thank
And
you.
I think, oh, absolutely. But I love that you said that as you're getting ready for the show, you shut out everybody that says how great you look, and you go into the show without any expectations. Because I think with your physique at the level that it's at, your beauty and the development of your physique, it would be like so easy to fall into hearing about how awesome you are, and that might actually take your hunger away, and that might take your edge away a little bit as well. So I think it's actually really cool that you kind of put the blinders on, and as much as you appreciate the support, you don't actually like let it get to you, right?
Oh, I don't absorb it at all.
Right.
Because, like I said, in life in general, okay, you place expectations on anything, a person, this, that, or the other thing. The second one little thing goes off, now you're suffering a disappointment. But if you have no expectations at all, and you just walk in there knowing, and I think the biggest thing is knowing you crossed every T and dotted every I. Did you do everything that you were supposed to do? Did you follow your meal plan? Did you do your cardio? If you can check all those things off, and you know that you nailed every one of those things, you have the best shot as anybody else would walking in there. It's just that you don't know who's going to show up on that day. So just knowing that should give you the confidence to walk on there like you won, whether you won or not.
That's so, I mean, that is so insightful, Nikki. Honestly, that is so insightful, because I think that a lot of people make the mistake. It's a quick assumption. You shouldn't assume, but a lot of people make the quick assumption that going into something with no expectations is somewhat of an underachiever move, when it's not, because you've said you've crossed all your T's, you've dotted all your I's, you've done everything you can. You don't know who's going to be there, but you've done everything in your possible power, but you're just not going in with expectations because you don't want to set yourself up for a fall. I think that's awesome. I think that's a fantastic way to go about any bodybuilding show at any level.
It's more about being mentally beat up over something that, you don't even have to have that in your brain at all.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
having the confidence that you did it. But I think a lot of people to psych themselves out before they go there. The best thing I would say is that you need to have vision. Okay. And if you can truly envision yourself getting to that finish line, and you can envision walking on that stage as the winner, you are giving yourself a better shot at getting it than the person who doesn't actually have the vision at all, and they're just going to walk on there. So
no, absolutely.
obviously, like you said, it's not about the trophy, but nobody trains to lose a show.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're training to do as best as you can, but you have to be realistic, and you can't beat yourself up, and you have to be kind to yourself. I think a lot of people forget to be kind to themselves when they're doing
No, for sure. I just want to read this comment, because these comments go away. I don't know, Instagram, I hate when Instagram, like when you go to IGTV, the comments go away. But Body Fitness column says, this is such an amazing interview, especially in terms of mental health and preparedness for a show. Well, thank you so much for that. And it is true. You have to be kind to yourself. And, you know, a lot of times people say, well, how can I reduce cortisol levels, for example? And sometimes I want to tell them, well, stop thinking. And I don't mean like stop thinking, like stop, like, you know, but it's like you said yourself, sometimes people set these like goals upon themselves or put their mind through the wreck, just to, you know, it's like they like a challenge, but it's like you're setting yourself up for a fall. You're increasing your stress like intentionally, and then you're wondering why, you know, your cortisol is all over the place. So yeah, so I think like, yeah, going in with no expectations, but still going in with, you know, doing everything you can. And it's outside of your power too. That's why I tell people too, like, don't be catty to your fellow competitors, whether on stage or backstage. It's not you against them. It's ultimately what the judges decide is best. The person next to you has no say. You have no say. Just get on there and have a good time. And, you know, by the time you get on stage, you've already done everything you possibly can.
Yeah. I mean, the work is already done, right? So
Right.
now you got your 90 seconds of fame, you know, walking out there. But I think also the other thing that you have to understand, and I always think about this, every single person up there put in this level of work. Yes, some people might come in more conditioned, some might have more muscle, whatever. But you just have to have a mutual respect for the fact that you're standing on a stage with people who have worked so hard. Their work ethic is second to none. And you know, just knowing that you're among that and a part of that, and you also did the same thing, I mean, you should just be proud for that in itself.
Definitely. Well, listen, I could keep talking to you forever and ever. We should do like a catching up or something. We should maybe do, I know initially when we did this, you were asking if we're going to do on Zoom or not. And I love Instagram Live, but I could totally do a Zoom with you, like a kind of like a podcast all on mental health. There's a few interviews. Turco Strong's another interview. Kara Lee's another. There's like a few interviews where I just feel like mental health is just so important. And this one here is so unique because we really talked about mental health in the context of competing, which I haven't really done with anybody else. I've talked about mental health, but not really in this context, you know, and I think it's really, really valuable. I think and it's resonated with a lot of people as well. So I definitely appreciate you doing this.
Oh, absolutely. You know, one thing that I've learned about this whole entire thing is that the mental health aspect, you have to be in a really good headspace to compete. Okay.
Right.
You can't be doing it because you think it's going to give you self-esteem or you think it's going to give you attention or this, you know, there's a million reasons why people want to compete. But if you're not in the proper headspace to handle the defeat of competing, if it comes your way, it could really be a big detriment to you. So, you know, taking care of yourself, taking care of really exploring the reasons why you want to do this. And when I say that, know every single detail of what goes into doing this, because it's not just about, like I said, protein and lifting weights, like every single aspect. And do you have a support system? If you don't have a support system and you need a support system, then you need to get the support system before you go and do the competing. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good outcome for you. So really listening to yourself, listening to your body, listening to your feelings, your emotions, and making the right decisions at the right time.
Awesome. That was, I have nothing else to say. That's fantastic.
Well, thanks.
So for national level, NPC figure competitor, owner of Physiques by Nikki and coach, please guys, if you need a coach and support system as well, right here,
Yes.
Nikki Pennella, Christian Duke, StrengthAddicts.com. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thanks.